very excited because, you've been a journalist for 20 years. It's not every day that you get a story about a sitting prime minister receiving stolen funds. We wanted to make sure that we upheld very high standards in reporting it, and we're obviously getting pushback from the Prime Minister's office saying, well, this is not true. So very nervous to make sure that we were reporting it. Everything was 100% correct. You can't make mistakes on these kinds of stories.
I happened to be on holiday in LA, and over breakfast I picked up the Wall Street Journal, and I was stunned.
Well, a shocking development and allegations for the first time directly linking the Prime Minister to the 1MDB scandal.
$681 million US. Yeah, I fell off my chair, to be honest. This was now becoming an international story. That was the magnitude of what was happening.
Prime Minister, you look happy. Can I ask you, sir, why you haven't resigned over personal involvement in a corruption scandal of global proportions, sir? Are you going to resign, Prime Minister?
The $681 million that Najib allegedly received into his accounts came 2 months before a really important general election in 2013. It certainly looked like 1MDB had been a political slush fund, a way that he could spend money and get re-elected.
I remember what happened during the 13th general elections, and we were wondering where all this money was coming from that was being poured into various constituencies. There was money being given away. There's vote buying in many respects. 1MDB is people's money, which is why it's very irksome that they would use the people's money to ensure their own victory.
It's very, very hard to describe. Najib is my brother. He will always be my brother, and I love him as my brother. We are a close-knit family, but it seemed to me that his promise that he would look into it and make sure there was no impropriety at 1MDB was not happening. What I then decided to do was to campaign to get various influential people to also look into 1MDB. I went to see politicians on both sides and really urged everyone to make sure that this is properly investigated and the rule of law applies.
In the summer of 2015, the Central Bank, the Attorney General, the Anti-Corruption Commission were trying to investigate 1MDB and find out what had been going on.
As police raided the offices of Malaysian state investment fund 1MDB on Wednesday, members of the Prime Minister's political party appeared to be closing ranks behind him. The Wall Street Journal's alleging investigators at the fund found transfers of almost $700 million to Najib Razak's own bank account.
What we believe happened is that the Attorney General was preparing a draft arrest warrant for Najib, and as the document was being prepared, the Prime Minister decided to remove the Attorney General, who was investigating 1MDB.
Suddenly there was a clampdown on 1MDB investigations. The Edge editor was held overnight. The Edge was suspended for, I think, a few weeks. And at that time, I began to also fear for my safety.
Protests on the streets of Kuala Lumpur go into a second day.
These protesters are directing their anger at one man, Prime Minister Najib Razak. You cannot allow a prime minister and his cabinet to continue to plunder a country just because they want to live in luxury. This scandal will affect our basic services. Cutbacks in the health services, cutbacks in education, cutback in terms of the quality of our transport. The cutback is a result of the corruption. You know, these people who are supposed to be our leaders just do not care. Whereas the rest of the population are more concerned with whether they can actually put food on the table. We urge all Malaysians to demand for Najib to step down and the institutional reforms to be implemented to end all the corruptions that's happening in this country. The Prime Minister must tender his resignation.
Jadi perkara yang paling membuatkan saya agak terkesan dan juga marah berkenaan dengan penyalahgunaan dana 1MDB yang telah menghasilkan satu filem The Wolf of Wall Street. Malaysia, dan dari mana datangnya duit tersebut? Dan ini melibatkan kroni-kroni yang related to Najib Razak, Perdana Menteri Malaysia. Jadi adakah duit tersebut adalah hasil tabungan mereka daripada kecil, ataupun sememangnya sudah tentu 1MDB punya duit daripada rakyat Malaysia?
Reuters reports that production company Red Granite has been accused of using $100 million that had been diverted from the 1MDB fund to finance the Wolf of Wall Street.
I think even before anyone knew anything about the connections to Malaysia, before any of the dots really had been joined between 1MDB, people were wondering where the hell they'd got their money.
Yes, this is Alex from The Hollywood Reporter. How are you doing?
So yes, well, I wanted to speak to you about the company Red Granite.
I've been trying to speak to anyone involved in Red Granite.
We wrote a story about Red Granite that was published yesterday.
Obviously, there's a growing investigation into the company.
Former employees, anyone that's dealt with them from other films, and they all have a lot of things to say, and they're all absolutely fascinating, but I can't say any of them because no one will go on record.
The amounts of money that are being talked about are vast.
230, 240 million ended up with Red Granite.
But Hollywood is actually quite a small place, really, and everyone knows everyone. You know, you don't want to really be the whistleblower, you don't want your name out there as the person that talks about stuff.
DiCaprio, from what we understand, hasn't said anything. Obviously, he earned potentially upwards of 25 million from the Wolf of Wall Street.
You know, if you want to continue to function in the industry, probably best to keep your mouth shut.
I mean, did you have any direct dealings with Rizza and Joey? Can we go on the record with that?
Leonardo DiCaprio with Martin Scorsese, they're the biggest filmmakers on the planet. They make award-winning, Oscar-winning films. People love them. How long before they say, we didn't know, or, oh God, this is terrible, we should never have done this? They're going to have to say something at some point. They're public figures.
So we're going to get the lead opposition figures of Malaysia and get their reaction. Thank you so much for talking to us. This is Patrick from The Hollywood Reporter.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, okay.
So we're at the Cannes Film Festival here, and...
Wow, I'm envious.
You should come next year.
I can't get out of the country at the moment.
Okay, I imagine you're very busy.
No.
No?
My passport is still restricted.
Oh, I see.
I'm still not allowed to travel.
Wow, what is the backstory to that?
The reasons provided is that I'm currently being investigated for activities detrimental to parliamentary democracy, punishable by 20 years of jail. So, yeah, there you go.
Wow. So, Wolf of Wall Street, for the people in Malaysia who have seen the film, do you think they have a bitter feeling about it?
The feeling is that the entire film is a parody of exactly what's happening with NSDP. Financial crime, using complicated instruments, global financial institutions, international money laundering are all present in 1MDB itself. And with Jolo and Liga Adi's name prominently displayed in the Wolves of Wall Street, it appears as if they are laughing at Malaysians.
Well, good morning, all. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. And we are here to announce a significant step in our ongoing work to combat global corruption. And today, the Department of Justice has filed a civil complaint. Now, our complaint alleges that from 2009 through 2015, these officials and their associates conspired to misappropriate and launder billions of dollars from 1MDB. The co-conspirators laundered their stolen funds through a complex web of opaque transactions and fraudulent shell companies with bank accounts in countries around the world. 1MDB was created by the Malaysian government to promote economic development with the ultimate goal of improving the well-being of the Malaysian people. But unfortunately, sadly, tragically, a number of corrupt 1MDB officials treated this public trust as a personal bank account.
Are you shocked by the fact that $3.5 billion have been stolen from the fund?
No. Hang on first. We have to establish the facts first, yeah? And this is a civil action. This is not a criminal action. But I want to say categorically that we are serious about good governance.
All right, thank you.
Secretary Najib Razak said the government will give its full cooperation to international parties investigating issues surrounding 1MDB.
The Wolf of Wall Street earned just shy of $400 million internationally. The idea of a film of that magnitude being seized and then owned by the US government was not anything I've ever heard of before. The Hollywood angle, it's because it was such a growing story and it was all unravelling, it was something that requires a little bit more investigating. So last night, I was given a new update. Jolo the man at the centre of the whole 1MDB scandal, Jolo bought a $31 million penthouse in the Time Warner building in New York. The real estate agent representing the seller was Robert De Niro's son.
No way.
Rafael De Niro. And Robert De Niro met with the Malaysian Prime Minister and his wife in 2009 or 2010, I believe, and first in New York, and then he went over to Malaysia and had lunch with Rosmah Mansor, the Prime Minister's wife.
We should check that out.
Bob, you're on with Alex.
Hello.
Well,
hey, Mr. De Niro, very nice to speak to you. I wanted to talk to you about this, this Malaysian corruption scandal. How well do you know Najib Razak, the Malaysian Prime Minister, and his wife, Rosmah Mansor?
I knew them. I met them a couple of times, here and there, and that's about it. I was going to do a movie with Riza,
yeah.
We wanted to do a film, and we didn't. Never happened.
Okay. How well did you know Mr. Jolo?
I met him once.
Okay, where was that?
In Vegas at that point. He mentioned to me he wanted to finance the Irishman, but that was, just talk.
Okay. Your son, Raphael, was dealing with Joe on a property sale in...
I was aware of that, yes.
Do you know how that came about?
I don't know how it came about. Are you an investigative reporter? Because I think the authorities should be asking me these questions.
Yeah, there's some huge allegations going around in Hollywood and the US, and I'm absolutely sure that you don't want your name associated with any of it. It would just be nice to get your...
I don't care whether my name is associated, because I didn't do anything, and I don't know what it is. And I know and I'm aware of it, but, I don't give a shit. So when you say this stuff, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed at your attitude, and
I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to annoy you.
Yeah, well, I don't fucking appreciate it. Excuse me. Get the fuck out of here. Goodbye.
One thing that I found fascinating is that when I speak to the biggest names in Hollywood, I just don't think people are aware. No one actually then, they go, oh God, yeah, we heard about that scandal maybe, but then they don't turn and look at its actual effects in the country that it's hurt the most.
This story, it opened my eyes as it goes international and so embarrassing. It also hit me hard. Small country like Malaysia now known because of global corruption. It drives my eagerness to know and explore more about Malaysia's political landscape. Dari situ mindset ataupun perkembangan pemikiran saya tentang ahli politik mula berubah, dan dari situ saya mulai sedar bahawa dunia politik ini tak semestinya semuanya smooth dan baik-baik saja, tetapi boleh juga terjebak kepada corruption. Yeah. All of the questions of 1MDB have